Hey there, everybody, it's a loony for.
Ah, the siren song to every kid of a certain age that had to stay home from school. This fucking song is permanently burned into the amygdala of younger millennials as deeply and truly as a sleeper cell code, just waiting to be triggered. There's a whole shared experience we as a species have with this phenomenon, stretching back until the 70s and the 80s and continuing past the point that I had cable. For me, it was Baby Looney Tunes and Crypto the Superdog and shit, but for others, it was horrifically depressing and crusty-ass shows like Pinwheel or, I don't know, Postman Pat.
Pat looked happy until he saw that most of it was sauce.
We are all united by our shared trauma of watching preschool shows as penance for lying about having a stomach ache to get out of school. Ah, memories. The countless times I made my mom get me out of high school for being sick just because I slept like 3 hours every night. You wouldn't believe this, but I had to go to summer school all throughout high school. Senior year was the dumbest shit because I had to go for fucking gym. I failed gym. We're not going to interrogate what this says about the public school system or myself in this video. However, dear viewers, I was big boy sick this past October. Not with the coronavirus, don't worry. I had that fucking thing in April of 2022 and begged for God or Satan to take away the pain every day. No, I was just slammed with a big motherfucker of a flu and was out of work for a whole week and some change. As I lay in bed, unable to hunch over my computer screen and write or play my Nintendo Switch, I felt a kinship with my past self emerge. The idea for this video kicked into gear as I binged a certain show that I will elucidate later. In general, I actually was a pretty sickly kid, due to, and I'm not joking here, an incident where as a toddler, I crammed couch stuffing up my nose. That is to say, I get fucked up by colds, and then usually I get bronchitis as a fun bonus for my troubles. Last time I got this sick was back in 2019. Ironically, the planet Earth being consumed by a plague in 2020 actually made it easier for me to avoid sickness, since people were generally more health conscious at that time. At least for a while there, until they started putting vampire piss in the vaccines to make us all fall into Joe Biden's thrall. That fateful October of last year, the ghost of myself from another time took control, as it frequently does in moments like these. This powerful urge to turn my brain off and purely absorb feel-goodness in a desperate bid for my brain to outpace the misery of my body. Normally I am watching some fucking meathead thing like Robots or Goku or a rubber suit monster, so I like to take these little detours from that. I call it the steak and cake dichotomy. It's not always masculine and feminine, but it often is. Pretty Cure is one of my favorite ongoing series on this earth, but so is A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm a man of many tastes. Sick Day, though, gives me the carte blanche to fully indulge in my cake side. I want to share with you all a few times in my adult life where I got to spend a week in the frame of mind of that kid sick from school, letting my cute flag fly. No holds barred pink shit. These are some excellent modern sick day tunes that helped me through some tough times. In 2019, the same week my brother got married, I was giga sick. This was right before COVID-19, so I have privately joked with everyone that I was actually patient zero, and that wedding was the first super spreader event. True story, I was so sick that at my brother's wedding, I asked my mom if I could go home early. First of all, I was 24. Second of all, she said no. But third of all, I had a good reason. Link's Awakening had just come out, so, you know. At this point, my parents still had cable, so I could bum the login off of them and watch shit on the Cartoon Network app. That's how I kept current with OKKO, Steven Universe, and Craig of the Creek. It's also how I discovered a few other gems at that time. Unikitty? Pretty funny. Apple and Onion? Hilarious. Mau Mau? Gone too soon. But one show that really caught my eye, and of course, it was a show for girlies, DC Superhero Girls. And look, I know this doesn't fit the theme of the rest of the show, as it's not a preschool show, but it's my video, so suck it up. It should be of no surprise to anyone, or should I say to any pony out there, that as a bearded white guy, god damn it. As a bearded white guy, I'm a fan of the show My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. We don't need to get that deep into it. Rarity is the best character, Starlight Glimmer is my waifu, etc., etc. But More so than that, I'm a fan of Lauren Faust, the showrunner of that show's first 2 seasons. Now, yes, a lot of that does have to do more so with her husband, but I truly believe Lauren is an amazing and hilarious artist of the same caliber as Craig McCracken. We were truly robbed of greatness when Toil and Trouble got canned. I'm a fan of the later seasons of FIM, but you really can't beat the charm of the first 2 seasons. Season 5 is the best one, though, don't at me. Superhero Girls brings that je ne sais quoi present in the Faust era of FIM and kind of buffs it up, makes it snappier and punchier, literally, as it's a lot more action-focused, and then she still manages to give us a cast of absolute S-tier girls. She is simply unmatched in this department. At the time, I was also revisiting some other older DC shows on the DC Universe app, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, so I felt queued up and ready for this show. It actually does a great job of paying a lot of lip service to iconic DC characters while reinventing them in a fun way. If you told me to pick a favorite character from the lineup, well, I definitely choose Zatanna. I personally think that characters do a good job setting themselves apart from their FIM counterparts and standing on their own, but Zatanna is enough like Rarity fused with Trixie to steal my heart. But even the villains are fantastic. They have the modern Harley Quinn that doesn't make me want to cringe. Poison Ivy being a reverse vegan is bizarre and hilarious. And this is probably my favorite version of Star Sapphire ever put to screen. In an Eartha Kitt-inspired Catwoman, truly the show is too good for this world. One advantage I think the show has over its Horse Girl sister is its use of the 11-minute format. Definitely in recent years, I've come to appreciate how much tighter and more consistent an 11-minute episode tends to be compared to 22-minute ones. Some shows can really benefit from 22 minutes, but look at all the modern cartoons that manage to tell large-scale stories, beloved stories, with just 11 minutes. For the more comedic shows, it really makes the joke density that much greater, and the writers have to hone in on the best of the best. In a 22-minute comedy show like Gravity Falls or the first season of The Owl House, there's a decent amount of groaners for every hit. You just get a lot less of that here. It's genuinely funny, the cast is great, the stories are fun and subversive without really pissing all over the comics, the style is awesome, it's beautiful to look at. If you are like me and you love it when a show has an expansive cast of really diverse and eccentric female characters, I urge you to give this one a shot. It made my violent sickness that September just a little bit brighter. Fuck my brother's wedding. 2022 was special because I finally got sick with the coronavirus. I guess even being a recluse janitor and making videos in my free time still put me at risk of getting a middle finger from God. On that first day of the lovely sickness, first I spent an entire day watching the excellent Tony Hawk documentary on HBO Max, wrapped in a 104-degree fever. Then I watched all of the available episodes of The Snoopy Show and Pinecone and Pony on the worst streaming service of all time, Apple TV+. That piece of shit is so bad to use, there is a new Fraggle fucking Rock show that I have yet to see because I would rather reacquire COVID than keep that app on my TV. We're not going to talk about Fraggle Rock or Snoopy because I have greater plans for those shows. Instead, we're going to be talking about Pinecone and Pony. As a longtime Kate Beaton fan, it's surreal to see her in charge of a cartoon after all this time. I gotta say though, I truly do not understand DreamWorks' strategy of shotgun pissing 11,000 cartoons a year across multiple streaming services. I mean, I guess now that the streaming bubble is collapsing into a hellish sinkhole, it's good not to have all your eggs in one basket, but why in God's name are there 2 different Kung Fu Panda shows that take place after the 3rd movie, but one is on Amazon and then one is on Netflix? Otherwise, I think DreamWorks has a really good track record of greenlighting pretty interesting shows. Yeah, a lot of it is crappy tie-in cartoons made on the cheap, but not only are some of those tie-in shows pretty good, but some of the more original shows or adaptations are frequently the best stuff of the last decade. Troll Hunters, She-Ra, Kipo. Fucking Kipo, remember Kipo? It's this weird string of semi-frequent bangers that keeps me vigilant of their output, and Pinecone and Pony really carves out an interesting niche. A TV-Y show, but made by the Hark a Vagrant Lady? Screw it, I'm down. The show manages to maintain Beaton's signature style while also making it work for animation. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of Hilda, though unfortunately that show had the benefit of absolutely nutty-ass Mercury Filmworks animation. The animation work here is still great, and it stands apart from a lot of modern cartoons stylistically. It's in its own quagmire of existence, away from Adventure Time or Gravity Falls, but still feels right at home with those shows. Also, it has maybe the best opening theme of any cartoon in a long time, at least since Craig the Creek, and that show came out 5 years ago. You really don't want to know how many of these views on the full version are just me and me alone listening to it. My only complaint, I guess, is it's not as laugh-out-loud funny as one would expect from Kate Beaton. It's definitely fun to watch, and it's very cute, occasionally emotional, but most of the time the jokes just register a small smile from me. I am, of course, nearly 30, so I don't hold it too much against the show. I just think that cartoons for young kids can still be really funny to anybody, regardless of age. There's a show on this very list that I think fits that requirement. So while I wouldn't go in expecting to be blown away, I think the charm shines pretty bright. If you're just generally into the fantasy aesthetic like I am and want something to make you feel nice on a gloomy day, I urge you to dust off your Apple TV Plus subscription, navigate that horrendous UI, and find your way towards Pinecone and Pony. And then also watch The Snoopy Show, because it totally owns. The next one here might be the most no shit one of the video, but I would be remiss not to talk about it. It's what inspired me to write this whole video to begin with. I even considered making it a solo video, but felt that I didn't have too much new to bring to the table. I'm still coming to the table, don't worry, and I'm gonna lay down my own plate of turkey bones. Here we go. I think the Australian preschool show Bluey is extremely good. I know. I watched literally every episode of the show while sick with the flu this last October, and I truly believe it to be one of the finest shows airing on television currently. Is this cope? Is this sunk cost fallacy at work? Am I being hyperbolic? Yes, but life is more fun that way. In all honesty, I think Bluey is incredible in ways that are both well documented and not talked about enough. Way back at the start of my channel, I talked about the shows Clarence and Craig the Creek and their differing approaches to nostalgia, or how we as kids engaged with our imaginations. Craig is much more heightened and fantastical, while Clarence has a blunt reality to it while still being really funny. I think, oddly enough, Bluey manages to marry the two styles in an interesting way. The lives of these kids and parents are very much idealized, but the ways that they engage with playing feels much more real. I think one of the most overlooked aspects of the show is its world and its characters. Everyone I know that has watched it and talks about how much they love Bandit and Chili, but as the show went on, I got really invested in the lives of the town's residents and the other kids. The show starts very strong in my opinion, but stays relatively simple and formulaic at first. It isn't until the second season that the magic really kicks in my opinion. I went from, yeah, this is a good way to pass a few minutes, to, wow, what a great episode, I want more! The comedy feels a lot more consistently funny, the scenarios are more creative and exciting, the world and cast really expands. It's great stuff. It's all so funny and pleasant without being saccharine, and when it is sentimental, it can hit really hard. And then it just keeps getting better. The second season had some real bangers, but the third season, holy shit, consistently the best stuff in the show. It feels like they finally hit their stride, and we start to get a lot more episodes about various side characters and even the adult characters. Probably my favorite episode of the whole show is Pass the Parcel. Not only is it delightful to have an episode focused on Lucky's dad, but it's really funny and has a message I've never seen tackled in a kid's show. Most kids shows would go with the toothless sort of lesson about how fairness is the most important thing in a game, but instead it's about how bingo needs to be okay with losing, that games with a higher chance of failure have higher rewards. It's not gonna melt your mind, but it really took me aback to see how it was handled so delicately, especially because the episode quite hilariously sets up how bad of an idea it is for Pat to make the game unfair right at the start, but all the kids quickly realize that one big gift is much cooler than a bunch of small, obligatory gifts. So yeah, I agree, there is a lot to love about Bluey. People who say fans are delusional or just extremely close-minded and incurious people. I urge them to watch a grab bag of episodes from the 3 seasons on Disney+, ideally while you're otherwise laid up in bed, of course. I have no shame saying that it's the best thing that Disney has on air right now, especially after Amphibia and the Owl House came to an end. Now, the video was supposed to wrap up here, but I want to talk about one more show very quickly. I actually want to do a full video on this at some point, so I'll try to be more to the point here. I'll warn you that things might get a little sad here, so feel free to skip, but I would appreciate it if you stuck around until the end. The last time I had a moment like this, stuck in bed, unable to really do anything like writing or drawing or even reading or playing games, was this year. My close friend and biggest fan, Nikki Austin, passed away right at the start of this year. This video was something I had already been planning back when I was sick that past October and wanted to release the video sometime in January. Unfortunately, that never came to pass, and nearly a year after its conception, I finally sat down to finish things. But it took a lot of emotional energy to do so. Like all the times before, though, when I was at my lowest, I found comfort in a cartoon. And like those times before, it was a show that I might have never given a chance otherwise. One of the final cartoons to come from Cartoon Network Studios, We Baby Bears. I didn't really pay the show much mind when it was first announced. I was only kind of a fan of We Bare Bears, not because I disliked it, but because I've seen maybe 6 episodes maximum. The idea of a baby spinoff felt weird, and I also thought the baby bear stuff in the original show was too cutesy for me, or at least cutesy in an uninteresting way. Then I saw the poster and then the trailer, and I was pretty intrigued. It has this awesome kawaii style to it that feels very authentic, but still stands out from the rest of shows on TV. As a big fan of the pilot Trick Moon, the magical adventure aspect of it really grabbed my interest as well. If I couldn't have that pilot as a show, at least this was being made, and it's drop-dead gorgeous looking to boot. Definitely more modern in style and not as high budget, but probably the best comparison I can make is to the Unico movies. Hell, the show not only feels incredibly inspired by Sanrio, but there is a Unico reference in it in the form of a character named Unica, who is of course my favorite. The show did its job and really kept me afloat at the darkest moments of my life. I just wanted something bright and happy to turn my brain off to, but it was awesome and funny and beautiful. Everything you could want from a modern cartoon, really. It may sound silly compared to my own personal tragedy, but it's really sad that this is basically an evolutionary dead end for Cartoon Network as they go through this horrid transition into an IP-driven nightmarescape. The studio is basically dead. All the awesome shows cut from the same cloth as We Baby Bears are dead before we even got to see they existed, and we're stuck here just clinging on to what's left before we sink into the abyss. I should leave you all with some words of hope, though. The future is uncertain and the present can be relentless and cruel, and it's not always the healthiest to retreat to the past and pretend like everything is fine. But I also think that in those moments where you're just unable to move forward, either from physical or emotional ailments, there's nothing wrong with getting your footing again with something that brings you simple joy. You're gonna need that kind of support and footing to get back up again and keep going. Maybe I, an almost 30-year-old man, should be watching and dissecting more sophisticated material, but screw it. I'm sick, I'm stuck in my room all day, and nothing good is on TV. Maybe a cartoon about anime bears with a magical box will serve me better than any prestige television show could. And I think maybe, if the circumstance is right, you just might agree. Thank you all so much for watching. Despite the drawn-out process of making this video, technically it took a year to make. It was actually a blast to put together. I was able to edit it all together in just 3 days, so I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it, and I got more stuff in the pipeline, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Alright, see you in the next one.